The Komar admiral's eyes narrowed as a human soldier casually flipped a page in his paperback in the midst of laser fire and ripping metal, sending a silent message that the humans would rather die reading than submit to alien savagery. The Zorkesh, a massive Komar battleship, unleashed a barrage of plasma upon the TSS Endeavour, a smaller human vessel in the Antares system. Captain Christian Robertson, a seasoned veteran of the Terran Space Fleet, commanded the Endeavour with a crew of 150. The Komar, a technologically advanced insectoid race, had declared war on humanity after a disastrous first contact incident. As the Zorkesh closed in, its commander, Admiral Laros, watched the battle unfold from the bridge, confident in his ship's superior firepower and shields. Robertson, known for his unorthodox tactics, ordered his crew to engage the cloaking device, masking the Endeavour's signature. The ship slipped away undetected, leaving Laros frustrated and humiliated. In his private quarters, Robertson consulted an ancient text on military strategy, Sun Tzu's The Art of War, seeking inspiration for his next move. He realized that the Komar's advanced technology was both their greatest strength and weakness, as they relied heavily on it and may not adapt well to unconventional warfare. Robertson devised a plan to exploit this weakness and rally the human fleet to strike back against the Komar invasion. As he prepared to brief his crew, an urgent message from Terran Space Fleet Command revealed that the Komar had launched a massive offensive, targeting human colonies across the galaxy. The stakes had never been higher. If Robertson's plan failed, billions of human lives would be extinguished by the ruthless Komar. The fate of humanity rested on his shoulders. As the Komar war machine tore through human colonies, slaughtering innocents and razing worlds, Robertson plotted his revenge. The Endeavour slipped into the Kepler 186 system, a crucial Komar supply hub, its cloaking systems masking it from enemy sensors. Robertson pored over stolen schematics of the sprawling depot floating amid a dense asteroid field. "All right, Marines, here's the plan," Robertson growled, pulse rifle slung over his shoulder, and dog-eared copy of The Art of War tucked into his belt. "We hit 'em hard and fast, plant the charges and blow this depot straight to hell." The strike team, the meanest bastards in the Terran Space Fleet, nodded. Sergeant John Bulldog Harris, a grizzled vet with more scars than an asteroid has craters, checked his weapon. "Hurrah, sir, let's send these Komar fucks a message." The Endeavour weaved through the asteroids, deftly avoiding the patrolling Komar fighters. Robertson led the Marines through the airlock, mag boots clanking on the depot's hull. They sliced through the outer doors, flashbang grenades and pulse rounds scything through the insectoid guards. The Komar chattered in alarm, their mantis-like forms scuttling for cover. The Marines were on them in seconds, armored fists and sharpened combat knives making short work of the defenders. Harris grappled with a towering Komar warrior, his scarred face twisted in a feral snarl as he jammed his blade into the creature's compound eye. As quickly as it began, the fighting ceased. Robertson took cover behind a shattered barricade and flipped open his book, searching its pages for guidance. A passage concerning the disruption of supply lines caught his eye, and a wolfish smile spread across his face. He turned to his demolitions expert, Private Emily Boom Boom Nakano. "Get those charges set. I want this whole damn depot turned into a debris field." Nakano grinned, hefting her satchel of explosives. "With pleasure, sir." The Marines fanned out, setting the charges at key structural points. Suddenly the depot's alarms blared, and a fresh wave of Komar troops poured into the chamber, led by the towering form of Commander Zorkil. Robertson cursed, ordering his team to fall back to the Endeavour. "I'll cover you. Get those charges set and get the hell out of here." Robertson and Zorkil locked eyes across the battlefield, each sizing up their opponent. Robertson raised his rifle, letting loose a burst of searing plasma that forced the Komar commander into cover. The two warriors engaged in a deadly dance, trading shots and hurling insults in their native tongues. As the last Marine boarded the Endeavour, Robertson keyed the detonator. The world erupted in flames, the depot disintegrating as secondary explosions tore through its frame. Robertson sprinted for the airlock, Zorkill's enraged screams echoing behind him. The Endeavour rocketed away from the expanding debris field, jumping to hyperspace just as Komar reinforcements dropped out of FTL. In the silence of the bridge, Robertson allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Terran space fleet had launched a counterattack, the tide of war finally turning in humanity's favor. But the fight was far from over. As Robertson settled into his command chair, he knew that many battles lay ahead. The Komar would not rest until every last human in the galaxy was wiped out or enslaved, and he would not stop until they were nothing more than a bitter memory, an example to any other species that dared threaten his people. The Terran space fleet's counteroffensive against the Komar gained momentum, bolstered by the Endeavour's successful strike on the supply depot. Terran Command identified their next critical target, a heavily fortified Komar communication hub in the Rigel system. Destroying it would cripple the Komar's ability to coordinate their forces. Robertson pored over the station's schematics, his mind racing with strategies. He recalled the tactics of Earth's ancient generals, Hannibal's deception and Alexander's audacity. An idea formed, audacious and risky. Perfect. "We're going to disguise the Endeavour as a captured Komar vessel," Robertson announced to his crew. "It's the only way to get close enough to infiltrate the station." The Marines exchanged glances, some skeptical, others eager for action. Sergeant Harris nodded, his scarred face set with purpose. "We're with you, Captain. Let's give these bastards hell." As the disguised Endeavour approached the station, Robertson assembled his strike team. Harris, ever reliable, checked his pulse rifle. Corporal Mike "Slingshot" Thompson, a young sniper with a gift for impossible shots, adjusted his scope. The Endeavour docked, the tension palpable. The airlock hissed open, revealing a phalanx of Komar guards, their chitin armor gleaming under the harsh lights. At their head stood Commander Zorkill, his compound eyes burning with hatred. "Robertson," Zorkill spat, mandibles clicking. "I've been waiting for this moment. You will pay for your insolence at the supply depot." Robertson just smiled, drawing his pulse rifle. "You'll have to catch me first." All hell broke loose. Slingshot dropped to one knee, his rifle cracking as Komar guards fell, ichor spraying. Harris charged forward, a battle cry on his lips as he engaged the enemy hand to hand. Robertson and Zorkill clashed in the heart of the melee, their blades sparking. They traded blows evenly matched. Robertson ducked a vicious slash, countering with a thrust that glanced off Zorkill's armor. Zorkill pressed the attack, his blade a blur. Robertson parried, his muscles burning. He reached for the copy of The Art of War at his hip, drawing strength from its ancient wisdom. With a final desperate lunge, Robertson drove his blade into Zorkill's thorax. The Komar commander staggered, ichor gushing from the wound. Robertson kicked him back, sending him tumbling over the edge of the platform into the depths of the station. "Control room secure," Harris called out, standing amidst the fallen Komar. Robertson and his team raced to the hub's control panels, planting their explosives. Suddenly alarms blared. "Captain," Slingshot yelled, pointing to a display. "Komar fleet inbound, ETA 2 minutes. Robertson gritted his teeth. They had to detonate the hub before the fleet arrived, but they also had to escape. He made his decision. "Evac now. I'll stay behind and ensure the detonation." "Sir, no," Harris protested. "We won't leave you." Robertson clasped his friend's shoulder. "The mission comes first. The survival of humanity depends on it. Now go, that's an order." Reluctantly, the Marines retreated to the Endeavour. Robertson took up position, his rifle ready as Komar reinforcements flooded the station. He fought like a man possessed, the Art of War pages fluttering at his waist. Komar fell before him, but more took their place. The station shook as the Komar fleet opened fire. With a final glance at the detonator, Robertson whispered, "For Earth," and pressed the button. The world turned white. The hub disintegrated, the explosions rippling through the station. Robertson ran, flames licking at his heels. He leaped into a Komar fighter, Its pilot slumped over the controls. The fighter screamed out of the hangar, the station collapsing behind it. The Komar fleet was in chaos, their coordination thrown into disarray. Robertson's stolen fighter docked with the Endeavour. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, the crew cheered. The mission was a success. The tide of the war had turned. With the Komar reeling from the loss of their communication hub, Robertson seized the initiative. The Endeavour spearheaded a blistering offensive, striking deep into Komar territory. Weapons factories, shipyards, supply depots, nothing was safe from the fury of the Terran space fleet. On Kepler 22b, a key Komar stronghold, Robertson led a daring ground assault against a heavily fortified weapons factory. Pulse rifles cracked, grenades detonated, and Marines clashed with insectoid warriors in brutal close-quarters combat. Amidst the chaos, Sergeant Harris uncovered a hidden access tunnel. "Captain, I think we've got something here." Robertson followed Harris into the depths, a sense of unease growing in his gut. The tunnel led to a secret underground lab, filled with grotesque specimens floating in tanks and Komar scientists scurrying between computer terminals. In the center of the lab stood Dr. Zorvax, his compound eyes glinting with malevolent intelligence. "Ah, the famous Captain Robertson. You're just in time to witness the birth of a new era." "What have you done?" Robertson demanded, his rifle trained on the scientist. "Behold, Harbinger," Zorvax gestured to a glowing vial. "A biological weapon that targets human DNA. With this, the Komar will cleanse the galaxy of your filth." Robertson's blood ran cold. "You're insane. Genocide is never justified." "Spare me your moralizing," Zorvax spat. "The Komar are the superior species. We will not rest until every last human is eradicated." As they argued, Zorvax surreptitiously pressed a button on his wrist computer. Alarms blared and containment fields deactivated, releasing a sickly green mist into the lab. Harris and the other Marines stumbled, choking and convulsing as Harbinger ravaged their bodies, but Robertson stood firm, unaffected by the weapon. "What, impossible?" Zorvax sputtered. Robertson lunged, snatching the vial of Harbinger. "Looks like your weapon needs some work, Doctor." With a roar of rage, Zorvax attacked. They grappled, smashing through equipment and overturning tables. Robertson's rifle skittered away, but he drew his combat knife, parrying the scientist's clawed strikes. Zorvax's strength was inhuman, his exoskeleton deflecting Robertson's blows. But the captain fought with the tenacity of a man whose entire species hung in the balance. He leapt onto the Komar's back, driving his knife into a gap in the chitinous armor. Zorvax shrieked, ichor spurting from the wound. He thrashed, trying to dislodge Robertson, but the captain clung on, twisting the blade deeper. With a final, convulsive shudder, the scientist collapsed. Robertson staggered to his feet, clutching the vial of Harbinger. Harris and the other Marines lay unmoving, their faces contorted in agony. The captain's heart clenched, but he had no time to mourn. He had to get the weapon to the Endeavour, to find a way to counter its deadly effects. He raced through the lab's corridors, alarms blaring, and Komar soldiers in hot pursuit. Pulse bolts sizzled past his head as he ducked and weaved, his legs pumping. At last he burst from the factory, the Endeavour hovering above, its guns laying down a blistering barrage of covering fire. Robertson leapt into the open cargo bay, shouting for the pilot to take off. As the ship rocketed into the sky, Robertson slumped against the wall, his chest heaving. The vial of Harbinger was clutched in his fist, a terrifying reminder of how close the Komar had come to victory. In the Endeavour's medbay, Dr. Emily Chen, the ship's brilliant medical officer, pored over the weapon's schematics, her brow furrowed in concentration. "This is like nothing I've ever seen," she muttered, zooming in on the molecular structure. "It targets specific sequences in human DNA, causing rapid cellular breakdown." Robertson leaned over her shoulder, his mind racing. "Can you develop a countermeasure?" Dr. Chen hesitated. I don't know, it would take time, and even then—" "We have to try," Robertson insisted. If the Komar unleash this on our colonies on Earth... He didn't need to finish the sentence. The horror of it hung in the air between them. As the Endeavour hurtled through hyperspace, rejoining the Terran space fleet's advance, Robertson knew that the fight was far from over. Harbinger represented an existential threat to humanity, a twisted perversion of science and morality. He would not rest until it was destroyed, until the Komar were brought to heel. For the sake of his fallen comrades, for the billions of innocent lives at stake, he would see this through to the bitter end. The art of war lay heavy in his pocket, its ancient wisdom a comforting weight. Robertson drew it out, running his fingers over the worn pages. There was still so much to learn, so many battles to be fought. But for now he had a purpose, a mission, and he would not fail. The fate of humanity depended on it. In the Endeavour's medical bay, Robertson and Dr. Chen worked feverishly, sweat beading their brows as they analyzed the Harbinger sample. Time was running out. The Terran space fleet pushed closer to the Komar homeworld with each passing minute. "I think I've got it," Dr. Chen said, her voice tight with excitement and fear. She held up a vial of clear liquid, the fruit of their desperate labors. "This serum should neutralize Harbinger's effects." Robertson took the vial, his eyes hard with determination. "Good work, Doctor, but there's a catch. We have to deliver it directly into the Komar's Central Command Center." Dr. Chen's eyes widened. "That's suicide. The place will be crawling with their best warriors." Robertson's jaw clenched. "I know, that's why I'm leading the strike team myself." He marched out of the medical bay, the vial clutched in his fist. In the armory, he found Sergeant Harris, Corporal Thompson, and a dozen battle-hardened Marines gearing up, pulse rifles at the ready. "Listen up," Robertson barked. "We've got one shot at ending this war. We're going to infiltrate the Komar Command Center and release this serum. It won't be easy. In fact, it's probably a one-way trip. But if we succeed, we save countless human lives. Who's with me?" The Marines roared their assent, slamming their fists against their chests in salute. Robertson nodded, pride swelling in his chest. These were his people, his brothers and sisters in arms. The strike team boarded a dropship, the Endeavour's hangar doors yawning open to reveal the chaos of the space battle raging outside. Komar and Terran ships exchanged blasts of searing energy, explosions blooming in the void. Robertson clutched his copy of The Art of War as the dropship weaved through the debris field, its hull shuddering with each near miss. The ancient text grounded him, reminded him of the principles he fought for. The dropship punched through the atmosphere of the Komar homeworld, anti-aircraft fire streaking past the viewports. Robertson gritted his teeth as the pilot jinked and juked, evading the deadly blasts. At last they touched down on the outskirts of the command center, a towering fortress of gleaming metal and pulsing energy shields. Robertson led the charge, his pulse rifles spitting bolts of searing plasma. Komar warriors swarmed to meet them, their chitin armor glistening in the harsh light. Sergeant Harris and Corporal Thompson fought at Robertson's side, their weapons blazing. Marines fell, their blood splashing the deck, but they pressed on. They blasted through the command center's outer defenses, grenades and pulse rounds, reducing Komar warriors to smears of ichor. Robertson consulted The Art of War, seeking guidance in the chaos. A passage on the importance of decisive action caught his eye. With a roar, he led the Marines into the heart of the command center, the serum vial clutched in his hand. They burst into the central chamber, pulse rifles at the ready. And there, waiting for them, stood Admiral Laros. The Komar leader towered over them, his compound eyes glittering with malice. "Robertson," he hissed, mandibles clicking. "I should have known it would be you." Robertson raised his rifle, his finger tightening on the trigger. "It's over, Laros. We have the cure for Harbinger. The war ends now." Laros laughed, a harsh, chittering sound. "You think you've won? You've played right into our hands." He gestured to a holographic display, showing the Terran space fleet in orbit. "We've rigged our homeworld to explode. In minutes, it will detonate, taking your precious fleet with it. A final act of defiance. Robertson's blood ran cold. The stakes had just been raised to an unimaginable level. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. He lowered his rifle, meeting Laros's gaze. "I can't let you do this." "Oh, you can't stop it," Laros sneered. "All you can do is die with us." Robertson shook his head. "No, I won't let you take any more human lives, even if it costs me my own." He turned to Sergeant Harris, pressing the serum vial into his hand. "Get this to the ventilation system. Release it into the air. It's the only way to stop Harbinger." Harris nodded, his eyes glistening. "What about you, sir?" Robertson smiled sadly. "I'll buy you the time you need. Now go, that's an order." As Harris and the Marines fought their way out of the command center, Robertson turned to face Laros. The Komar admiral snarled, drawing a wicked-looking energy blade. "Let's finish this, human." They clashed in a whirlwind of strikes and counter-strikes, Robertson's pulse rifle against Laros's blade. Sparks flew as they danced a deadly waltz, neither giving ground. Robertson ducked a vicious slash, feeling the heat of the blade singe his hair. He retaliated with a burst of plasma bolts, scorching Laros's armor. The Komar staggered, ichor seeping from the cracks in his chitin. Robertson pressed the advantage, hammering Laros with a flurry of blows. But Laros was far from finished. With a roar of rage, he lunged, his blade slicing through Robertson's armor and into his flesh. Agony exploded through the captain's body, and he fell to one knee. Laros loomed over him, mandibles spread in a triumphant grin. "Any last words, human?" Robertson looked up, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He reached into his pocket, drawing out his battered copy of The Art of War. "Just this," he said, and thumbed the worn pages. A passage he had read 100 times leaped out at him, and he spoke it aloud. "The greatest victory is that which requires no battle." And with a final desperate lunge, he drove his combat knife into Laros's eye. The Komar admiral shrieked, reeling back, ichor spurting from the wound. Robertson staggered to his feet, watching as Laros toppled, his blade clattering to the deck. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.